Buonasera. Good evening. I am honored to represent the community of people with HIV, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to share with you some thoughts that emerged from the community meetings we held here in Italy over the last few months. What has changed since we last met in Cape Town? In the last 2 years, exciting results from clinical studies and increased access to treatment implemented in several countries have been successful in showing that antiretroviral therapy not only prevents the development of comorbidities and immune deficiency, but also prevents the onward transmission of HIV. The report delivered on July 7 by the Secretary General of the United Nations confirms that new HIV infections are declining steadily between 2001 and 2009 by nearly 25% worldwide, while the number of people receiving antiretroviral therapy increased 13-fold from 2004 to 2009. While we push for more research into a cure, we are learning how to use the increased number of tools we have at our disposal to assist with prevention. At the United Nations High-Level Meeting, 192 member states pledged by 2015 we would have 15 million people on treatment. But at the same time, some countries of the European Union are threatening access to the generic drugs through a new free trade agreement. We will never reach 15 million people on treatment without access to affordable medications. With sufficient resources, we could be at a turning point. We must ask ourselves, how far are we from an era without HIV? I have been living with HIV for more than 25 years. I have survived a heart attack. I am alive because I was born in this part of the world. I wouldn't be speaking to you today if I were born in one of those countries more affected and where access to care and treatment has only started to become a reality very recently. In the 30 years since we learned about HIV and AIDS, the community of people living with HIV has fought for a seat at the table. We fought for treatment and for universal access to treatment. We demanded that drug companies and governments respond to the needs of some of the most vulnerable populations and marginalized members of society. We have fought for human rights, for men who have sex with men, sex workers, people who use drugs, women, transgendered, and others at risk of contracting HIV. Today we are at the table, actively involved in influencing the research agenda and in the organization of this important scientific event. But we still have a long way to go. Now, I would like the gains we have made and the lessons we have learned to be shared with the world. It will take strong political commitment and sufficient funding from the wealthy North, including from the emerging economies. Welcome to Italy. Welcome to Italy, where the Prime Minister has failed in his promise to contribute to the Global Fund. Not a single euro since 2009. Without the contribution of wealthy countries, the Millennium Development Goals will never be achieved. Will our presence here convince our country to restart the National AIDS Research Program, or will future research only be conducted thanks to the efforts and goodwill of private donors and committed researchers? Will our presence here convince our country to put in place legislation to protect against homophobia? Incidents of violence against gays are still a daily occurrence. It is not hard to understand why some people live in fear of getting tested if it will only lead to more stigma, more discrimination, and more infections. Will our presence here convince our government to ensure equitable access to treatment along the entire peninsula, where budgetary pressures in the healthcare system are threatening good clinical practice? Like other Western countries, Italy is losing the war on drugs, putting far too many people who use drugs behind bars along with people who deal drugs. There is no better place for diseases like HIV and hepatitis C to spread. While our politicians live in denial, Italy needs to do more. We need to base our approach on scientifically proven interventions, such as harm reduction, and not on ideology. Just as it says the Vienna Declaration. Welcome to Roma. We are only 2 miles away from another country, the Vatican. The Vatican, where scientifically proven methods to prevent the spread of infectious diseases continue to be confounded with moral and religious principles. We hope that the papal declaration to open a dialogue on condom use will be implemented, because we feel the Vatican, so close to us here, is many miles away from our hearts and minds, far from our view of contemporary women and men. Will the Vatican take the opportunity to start listening to the scientific community during this conference? Members of the Italian civil society held a community forum a few days ago. By the way, not one invited government representative, politician, or policymakers showed up. The results of the forum is a document entitled The Rome Declaration. It details the commitment of NGOs to the ongoing fight against HIV and AIDS, and requests all governments to renew their commitment to the Global Fund, to the Millennium Development Goals, and to fight against inequalities in access to health, inequalities that go far beyond HIV, to the social and economic determinants of health. We are pleased you have traveled from so far to join us here, the home of the Renaissance. Your presence in Italy gives us the hope that our leaders and policymakers will rededicate themselves to a renaissance of commitment in the fight against AIDS. The time for declarations is over. We all need Italy to turn words into action. Thank you for your attention. Enjoy the conference and our wonderful city.